Alrighty then. Hello and welcome to Laugh Your Way to a Better Marriage. I'm so glad you're here. This is the marriage seminar for people who hate marriage seminars. Hoo-ah! All right? I get a kick out of watching the couples when they first come in on Friday nights. You know, the girls, they're all lit up, you know, just, ooh, I got him here, I got him here, you know. and the guy's going, oh man, I can't believe, you know, I got here. But it's cool, guys, you can relax, you're gonna love it. This is not one of those let's beat up on the men for not being women seminars. Yeah. What I'm talking about. And what is it with that anyway? Man, you know, you ask a lot of women to describe their ideal man, and they'll describe another woman. What's up with that? You know? So we're not going to do that. We are going to just go with this thing in a normal, healthy way. We're men. Men are men. We're not sick. We're not perverted. We're not twisted. You know, we're not broken. We're men. Amen. All right? And God, yeah, hoo-ah. And God made us the way we are for a reason. And I'm going to show you girls what that reason is. Okay? And I'm going to try and explain to you the world of men a little bit through this thing. We'll also discuss the women's side of things as well. But I really want you to understand this men thing. Women are much more complicated than men. Men are very simple. Simple. S-E-X. Simple. All right? So... That's what I'm talking about, okay? So we're going to have fun. We should have a really, really great time. Now, tonight we're going to do a session called The Tale of Two Brains, hence the two brains. And we're going to be discussing how men and women think very differently from each other. Why is that important? Because men and women are very quick to make into heart problems what are essentially head problems. A woman acts a certain way. A guy feels she doesn't care about him. He says, well, there's something wrong with your heart. You don't care about me. No. It's the way she processes information. The same with a guy. A man thinks in a certain way, and a woman thinks there's something wrong with his heart. No, it's his head. Okay? So I'm going to try and explain to you what that's all about. Then tomorrow morning, we're going to do a session called Why Does He Do That? Why does she do that? Okay? See, it's one thing to understand men and women in general. It's another one to understand the one you got stuck with. Okay? So I'm going to show you how you can discover specifically what makes your spouse tick. And it's powerful information that will absolutely revolutionize your relationship. All right, then we're going to do what I call the Yo Mama session. And it's called the #1 key to incredible sex. And boys, if you miss that, there's just something wrong with you, okay? So you gotta check. And then we're going to end with how to stay married and not kill anybody, okay? All very deep, emotional stuff. Now, a lot of people say, well, what's your background? What's your deal? Well, my background is that I'm a minister. Now, if you're not much of a churchgoer, don't let that make you nervous. Some of my biggest fans are heathens. All right? And this isn't one of those things where we sneak you in and then beat you over the head with a Bible. All right? But I do have a Bible verse I need to show you. Okay, because I found a Bible verse that if you follow the advice from this one Bible verse, you will never, ever, ever have a problem in marriage. How many think that's worth seeing? All right, you follow the advice from this one verse, you'll never have a problem in marriage. It says it's good for a man not to marry. All right? I said, well, why would he say that? That's such a terrible thing to say. Because he goes on to explain, he who marries will have trouble in this life. You know, people come up to me, Pastor Mark, something's wrong. I say, what is it? We got trouble in our marriage. I go, no, that's about right. Hey, there ain't nothing wrong. That's pretty normal. Now, you don't hear these verses read at weddings very often. Kind of downplay that. You know? You don't see those on Hallmark cards. You don't see them on cakes with pretty calligraphy. He who marries will have trouble, but it's too late for you. You know, you say, if that's the case, then why get married? Because marriage is absolutely wonderful. It's great. It's fantastic. But it's not that it's without trouble. All right? And I want to show one other verse to you. Now, you don't have the deep theological training that I have, so you might have a hard time understanding this verse. But I'll try and explain it to you. This is found in Proverbs. And it goes like this. Where no oxen are, the manger is clean. Let me explain that to you, okay? What does that mean? What it means, if you're going to have an ox, you're going to have ox poo, all right? Now, if you don't like poo, and most of us are not real big fans of poo, if you don't like poo, the temptation is get rid of the ox. Preach it, brother. No. I don't want you to get rid of the ox, all right? You know, so well, why would you keep the ox around? Because he goes to the second half of the verse, it says, because much increase comes by the strength of the ox. Well, now there's the catch-22. On the one hand, we all love the benefit of the ox, but nobody likes the poo. And what he's trying to tell us here is you cannot have one without the other. There is no such thing as a poo-free marriage. It just doesn't exist. Unless you shoot the ox, okay? But that leads to other problems. So this weekend is not about attaining a state of perfection in your life, all right? It's about getting a proper positive to poo ratio in your life. You see, because if all you get is poo, then you got one sick ox. Are you hearing me? All right? So, but there's no such thing as a poo-free marriage. For those of you who are having a hard time grasping this, I have a mathematical version of it. It goes, ox equals poo over positive. Some say positive over poo. But anyway, it's the ratio that we want to get going here, okay? Now, marriage is a wonderful institution. Statistically speaking, we know that married people are healthier than single people. They are actually happier than single people, assuming you're doing this right. Or you can be profoundly unhappy. They actually make more money than single people, and I'll mention a little bit later why that's true. Okay? They have better sex than single people. Now, you don't see that in our culture, you know, in all the movies and shows, you know, it's the single people all having really great sex, you know, and the married people are, You know, someone will say, well, how's your sex life? Are you kidding? I'm married. Ha. And it's not true. It's a bunch of baloney. Okay? Married people have great sex compared to single people. Single people don't even know what they're doing, for crying out loud. Okay? And statistically speaking, married people live longer than single people. This is particularly true for men. Statistically speaking, one of the most dangerous things a man can do in America today is remain single. It is the equivalent of smoking 2.5 packs of cigarettes a day. It's true. They found that if you take of someone who has 2.5 packs of cigarettes a day and the health problems and the shortness of life and all the difficulties, and a single guy is pretty much the same. I guess the worst would be a single guy who smokes 2.5 packs of cigarettes a day. All right? But marriage is wonderful. It's great. It rocks. I love it. Okay? If you do it right. Now, the problem here is so many people don't do it right. And it's not that they don't know, not that they don't want to do it right, they don't know what to do. We live in a culture today that seems, for somehow in the relationship area, to be completely clueless. We seriously don't know what to do. Now, this weekend, what I want to do is show you specific things you can do that will absolutely energize and transform your marriage life. How many think that's worth hearing? Yeah, okay? So, now, I want to talk to you about what I call the laws of relational physics. You see, the laws of physics affect everybody, whether you believe them or not. Okay? If I step off this stage, I'm probably, in all likelihood, going to go down. If I start floating around, you might want to freak out and run. But why? Because the laws of physics affect. Well, I don't believe that. It doesn't matter what I believe. I'm going down, right? Doesn't matter if I'm a born-again Christian. Doesn't matter if I'm a heathen. I'm going, because it affects everybody. Well, just like that, there are laws of relational physics, and they affect everybody, whether you believe them or not. Now, this might come as a little bit of a shock to those of you who are church people, especially hearing from a minister. But the truth is, you don't have to be a Christian to have a great marriage. I know a lot of heathens that have wonderful marriages. I know a lot of born-again Christians who have horrible marriages. Why is that? They're breaking all the rules. And they assume that somehow that the rules don't apply to them, but they do. Here's an example. If you're driving a car 80 miles an hour around a curve that says only 40, and you keep going 80, chances are you're going to get hurt, even if you're listening to a Christian radio station. Even if you have a statue of Jesus on the, he might be going, but why is that? Because the laws of physics still affect you, but for some miracle, you're going to get hurt. Same true with relational physics. And I want to explain that to you, and we'll take a look at that. Now, this weekend, I'm going to be speaking to you in basic stereotypes. In other words, women generally tend to be a certain way. Men generally tend to be a certain way. But they're not all that way. I get it. Okay? Some of the people that just have a cow. Well, I don't know. That's true for all men. I'm admitting it's not. All right? Just generally speaking, we don't have time to get into all the shades of gray. But generally speaking, men are a certain way, women are a certain way. If I start describing something that's not you, don't have a cow, just interpolate for your relationships. In Debbie's and I relationship, there are areas where we're completely opposite of a typical man and a woman. I remember when I was first studying this stuff, I thought, oh man, I'm a woman. So just interpolate. I will say this, that if you tend to be one way in a certain relationship, your wife generally will be the other way. I don't think I've run across a couple yet. I'm sure they're out there that act the exact same way. So if you break the rules, chances are your spouse is breaking them right with you, and you just flip on this deal. Okay? For example, a typical stereotype. Men are more interested in sex than their wives. Why would you say that? Because generally it's true. But it's not always true. There are a lot of relationships where the wife is much more interested in sex than her husband. If you're here tonight and your wife is much more interested in sex than you are, I think I speak for all the men here when I say that we hate you. Please don't tell us who you are. We will hurt you, all right? So So just go with the flow. It'll be cool. We'll have a great time discussing this thing about marriage. Now, I believe marriage is a life-giving institution. We live in a culture today that believes marriage is a life-sucking institution. It will suck the life out of you. All right? And that's why we say, make sure you're old enough. Make sure you have enough money. Make sure you have enough education. Make sure you've been dating for 37 years first. Make sure that, get all the stuff. Why? You got to get everything together and ready so that when you say I do, you can withstand the, But it's not that way. It'll give you life if you'll do it right. If you do this right, marriage can be the closest thing to heaven on earth. If you do it wrong, well, you fill in the blanks. Okay, so now, we're going to start discussing men's brains, women's brains, and how they're very different from each other. Now, I want to start with men's brains. All right, now men's brains are very unique. Men's brains are made up of little boxes. And we have a box for everything. We've got a box for the car. We got a box for the money. We got a box for the job. We got a box for you. We got a box for the kids. We got a box for your mother somewhere in the basement. We got boxes everywhere. And the rule is the boxes don't touch. When a man discusses a particular subject, we go to that particular box, we pull that box out, we open the box, we discuss only what is in that box. All right? And then we close the box and put it away, being very, very careful not to touch any other boxes. Sorry, my Catholic upbringing got in there for a minute, but I'm not a Catholic, but I went to Catholic school when I was little. I had a nun who taught on hell like she was born and raised there. I mean, I'll never forget it, but it did me good, actually. It was a good thing. Now, women's brains are very, very different from men's brains. Women's brains are made up of a big ball of wire. And everything is connected to everything. The money's connected to the car, and the car's connected to your job, and your kids are connected to your mother, and everything's connected to everything. And it's like... It's like the internet superhighway. Okay? And it's all driven by energy that we call emotion. And it's just... It's one of the reasons why women tend to remember everything. Because if you take an event and you connect it to an emotion, it burns in your memory and you can remember it forever. The same thing happens for men. It just doesn't happen very often because, quite frankly, we don't care. Women tend to care about everything. And she just loves it. Okay? Now, men, we have a box in our brain that most women are not aware of. This particular box has nothing in it. It's true. It's true. In fact, we call it the nothing box. And of all the boxes a man has in his brain, the nothing box is our favorite box. If a man has a chance, he'll go to his nothing box every time. That's why a man can do something seemingly completely brain dead for hours on end. You know, like fishing.